Hello. Before we start, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you all who, despite the long delays between each of our videos, have continued to follow our project. Reading your kind comments has really motivated us to push onwards, and I really hope we can continue to deliver good quality and useful videos for you in the future. Now, without further ado, let's start the 8th video in our series on the Battle of Siffin. In the last episode, we assessed the circumstances around the siege on Osman's palace, which culminated in his death. Following this, people of Medina flocked to Ali, giving him their allegiance. In spite of this, some ambitious men such as Talha did not give allegiance or claimed that they had given an insincere or even a coerced allegiance. Therefore, the election of Ali by the people of Medina had not secured him the loyalty of the entire Muslim community. In fact, at this point in time, the community was divided into 3 factions. Beside the party supporting Ali, there were the Umayyads, who believed that the Caliphate had through Osman become their property. And the 3rd faction was the party of the majority of Quraysh, who hoped to restore the Caliphate of Quraysh on the principles laid down by Abu Bakr and Omar. It was Talha and Aisha that led the later group from Mecca, whilst the Umayyads would be led by Muawiyah from Syria. Nonetheless, Ali began to establish government in Medina. Being deeply devoted to his faith, Ali lamented the state the Muslim world had come to in recent years. Thus, his determination to break away from the traditions set by Osman can be reflected in his reversal of the previously made land grants, and more importantly, the replacement of all of his predecessors' governors. Having expected such fate, some of these now deposed governors had already collected their wealth and fled to Mecca. For in Mecca, Aisha and her supporters had begun accusing Ali as the man responsible for Osman's killing, thus summoning the Muslims to revolt and seek revenge. Indeed, to blame Ali for this served the political ends of the Meccan rebels, for had they wished to punish those responsible, the rebels did not need to look far, as Talha was already amongst them, and the story of Talha's role in Osman's murder has already been told in our last video. Yet, the real reason behind this call to rebellion was to depose Ali and exclude him from any future elective council. And if Ali was the culprit, he, along his supporters, had to be fought and punished. A war council was held in Mecca to decide the rebels' next course of action. They knew they were not sufficiently strong to directly besiege Medina. To achieve this, they required further reinforcements. So it was agreed to move the rebel army to the city of Basra in southern Iraq and call for support there. Thus, once again, the Meccan Quraysh would arm itself for battle. Here, 80 golden dinars were spent to purchase a formidable camel for Aisha, for she was to accompany the rebel army to Basra. Many men were to perish by the side of this very camel. Hence, the upcoming encounter would be named as the Battle of the Camel. Beside Aisha, the main figures leading the rebels were Talha and Zubayr. Unlike Talha, Zubayr had opposed the siege on Osman, yet they now rode side by side, for they both had ambition to be the next Caliph. This would become a source of division and discord for the rebel army. Upon reaching Basra, the rebels were initially repelled by Ali's new governor, Osman ibn Hunayf. So they deceived Ibn Hunayf by agreeing to a truce that they soon broke to attack him whilst off guard. Once seized, the rebels humiliated Ali's governor by plucking his hair, eyebrows and eyelashes out before placing him in prison. With Basra in their control, the rebel army began to grow. Yet Talha and Zubayr would not come to an agreement for their next course of action, leaving their army idle. Meanwhile, Ali had left Medina with 700 men and sent word to Kufa for support. Yet, Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, the governor of Kufa, disobeyed this call. Upon hearing this news, Ali sent word that Abu Musa is to be deposed, and so sent his son Hassan, the grandson of the Prophet, alongside Ashtar to Kufa. These new emissaries were successful in bringing Kufa under control. Hassan was then able to raise an army of around 7,000 men to strengthen his father's force, who by this point had reached the vicinity of Kufa. Now, the two armies approached each other for battle, each numbering around 9,000 to 10,000 men. The Battle of Camel took place on Thursday the 8th of December 656 CE and lasted from noon to sunset. Before the battle, Ali, Talha and Zubayr spent 3 days negotiating in a tent that was set up between the two armies. On the third day, having failed to reach an agreement, Ali raised the side of the tent and gave order to his men to get ready for battle. It is important to point out that during this engagement, Zubayr is said to have been convinced by Ali not to take part in the upcoming battle. He hence abandoned the Basran army and fled towards Arabia before the battle commenced. On how the battle started, Tabari says that Ali first said to those around him, "Which of you will hold this copy of the Qur'an and what is in it before them? Should his hand be cut off, he will then take it with his teeth." A young boy then said, "I will." Ali put this to everyone around him again, but none volunteered except for the boy. So Ali said to him, "Hold this up before them and say, 'Every word in this shall judge between you and us, and I beg you for Allah's sake to stop shedding our blood and yours.'" But with the copy of the Quran in his hand, the boy was attacked and cut down. When Ali saw this, he said, "Now the battle is justified, so fight them." In this battle, Ali took his own banner and led a great charge that discorded the Basran army. At the same time, on his right flank, Ashtar charged against the Basran's left, led by Hilal ibn Waki, and overcame him. On the opposite side, Talha, in charge of the Basran horsemen, fought greatly at first, but could not endure in the face of Ali and Ashtar's charges, and thus began to lose ground and was later brought down. With Talha gone, the rebels flocked around Aisha's camel. A ferocious fight then ensued, leaving many dead or wounded. The fighting would only stop when Ali called for someone to hamstring Aisha's mount. With the camel downed, Ali and his retinue managed to reach her, thus bringing an end to the battle. In his victory, Ali was merciful, ordering his army not to pursue those that fled, to leave the wounded unharmed, and to give safety to those that had surrendered. Women and children were spared the pain of slavery, and the properties of the slain enemy were returned to their rightful heirs. Additionally, Ali freed the prisoners of war, including Usman's two sons, Abban and Sa'id. Many prominent men of the Quraysh were killed in this battle, which greatly weakened the once ruling tribe of Mecca. The lowest figures of all dead given are 2,500 for Aisha's army and 400 to 500 for Ali's. Ali reproached Aisha for the ruin she had brought on the Muslims and disobeying God's command that the wives of the Prophet were to remain in their homes. He then asked Aisha's brother Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr to lead her back to Medina. With this came an end to Aisha's political career. It is worth highlighting that most people in Ali's position of victory would have decimated their opposition to get a stronger foothold for the newly formed government. However, Ali was from a different cloth and hence pardoned his enemies and did not even pursue the most treacherous of them like Marwan, who left to join Muawiyah in Syria. For all this time, Muawiyah had been patiently waiting for his turn to become the next Caliph. Stay with us to see what happens next.